Welcome to Mitten Music.
Season 4, Raw, Live, and Authentic. Episode 7 with Kyle Joe, singer-songwriter out of West Michigan. All right, Ryan. We got this name. Now, we knew of Kyle. No, we did not. We did not. He goes by many names. No.
How did you know him?
I actually think I did know him as the project Chain of Lakes initially.
I'm pretty sure you introduced me to Chain of Lakes years and years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you mentioned him. I had heard of him, but I'd never listened to it. And you mentioned that I played Chain of Lakes song on Sonic Coast.
And that's how you got heard more and more.
I was going through because I knew I wanted to pick a Chain of Lakes song I'll tell you what that all means in a second, Kyle. But I was going through, listening to everything, and half a dozen strings is the song I ended up picking. And then I just started listening to more and more. I'm like, yeah. And then we started hearing, we hadn't met Kylie or Chris yet. Kylie Phillips or Chris DuPont, because they know Kyle and they talked, some good things about you. But there was a couple of artists that Kyle has come up. And as they were describing it, I think that now it's like, oh, it's Kyle Joe. Maybe, Chain of Lakes isn't a thing anymore, and you kind of just explained all that.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
So, welcome, Kyle.
Thanks
for coming on the show.
Welcome. Yes, thanks.
So we have Kyle Joe on the show. To be clear,
how easy is it to remember Kyle Joe? Everybody, right?
7 letters.
So tell us why. Tell us why it's Kyle Joe now and not Chain of Lakes or.
Well, my last name is Rashi, and it's spelled R-A-S-C-H-E.
No Z in there?
No
Sometimes
Z
they
in there.
Sneak a Z or CH in there.
And there's actually a family of apple farmers in West Michigan that spell their last name the same way, and they pronounce it Rash, just to completely screw me up. After being called Rash on the radio for 20 years, I knew that I didn't really want my my full name to be like my product name, if you will. So, and honestly, Iron and Wine, Bone of Air, all those guys were kind of pulling off the band name. And early on, I was playing with a band more than I was solo. So it just made sense to just kind of name the project what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But then as, my career was progressing, a lot of what had been elevating it was like songwriter contests and stuff. And I would enter those as my name. So as those kept coming back and getting different accolades and such, it just wasn't helping my career at all. People couldn't find my stuff. It was like, I would have to say on stage, you could find me with Chain of Lakes or whatever, but all the publications and everything else, it wasn't helping me. So, and probably in the last 5 years or so, a lot of my career has been, traveling to songwriter, not festivals, but workshops and such, retreats, and starting to teach more. And it just wasn't, I wasn't getting hired as Chain of Lakes. I was getting hired as Kyle. And again, it wasn't turning into album sales and streams or people discovering my product online. So I needed to just kind of I needed to be a guy. So my middle name is Joseph, and you nailed it with, I was just trying to simplify as much as possible, and you can't mess that up. It was hard. Even if I went by Kyle Rashi, if you were just reading it, you weren't going to pronounce it right. And so even thinking about someone saying you should check out this Kyle Rashi, that person going back to their computer and to look it up, no one's telling them how to spell it. It just wasn't a discoverable product. For sure.
Yeah.
So it was a business decision more.
And those are the things when you're starting, you're not everybody's thinking about the long term thing.
No, exactly. I didn't really have any help. And I mean, when a product comes to market, there has to be a need, obviously, but the second most important thing is having a discoverable name for the product. And my name just wasn't working.
Although I'm bummed because I kind of liked the Chain of Lakes name.
I did too. I loved it. I wish if it would have taken off. And when I play with a band now, I can be Kyle Joe and Chain of Lakes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I still own it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I loved the name Chain of Lakes. I grew up splitting between mid Michigan. I went to Okemos High School, and my family had a a cabin up on the chain of lakes near Bel Air in Central Lake, Michigan. So I learned how to play guitar and around those bonfires up on the chain of lakes, and so it was a natural fit. I loved it too, and who knows, maybe it'll come back. But yeah, for now.
But so you had that project for quite a long time.
I did 6 Chain of Lakes albums. Yeah, well, a couple of them were EPs, but yeah. It was a good run. I loved the name. I'll still use it. Like I said, when I play full band,
sure,
and stuff. But Kyle Joe's working right now.
So for some reason, and I don't know what the reason is. Maybe there is one, and one of you guys knows. Whenever I heard of Chain of Lakes, I always somehow equated it with the Crane Wives. I don't know if maybe I heard about both bands at the same time. Michigan, like maybe the names are just similar enough that they like, I don't know, but the Crane Wives isn't like a band that you're friends with.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've played a couple shows with Kate, and Emily's a friend, and Dan actually came in to drum on my first Chain of Lakes records when I moved to Grand Rapids.
Maybe that's how it must have been tied.
Now you're making me second guess the decision. They have a couple million followers. I'd love that association. If anyone's listening, I'm associated with the Crane.
For whatever reason, like
I love those guys, but yeah.
So I was on the right track. So I was okay thinking that.
Grand Rapids band.
I don't know.
And you kind of talked about that, and a lot of other artists. So you're pretty tight knit with the Michigan music community, I would say, right?
To think so, yeah. Just doing this work for long enough, you play with a bunch of people, and like I said, I've been doing a lot of like the songwriter retreats and stuff like that. So I've really tried to curate a community of songwriters and just try to empower people to make up their own songs. So I used to do when I did social media, I had a group called the Song Hall. It was a Facebook songwriter group. Every month you'd get a prompt and you had to post a video of yourself playing a song by the end of the month, or you were out.
Oh wow, so, that's quite the challenge. Yeah,
it was great. I did it for years. That's how I met Mike Ward. Spencer LaJoy was in that group for a while. Sammy Hershock was in that group for a while. Travis Atkinson. That becomes like a very supportive place, and you really, you just get to see people, shit out the stinkers, and you got to put a song up by the end of the month. So it's a very vulnerable art form anyway, singing about your feelings. You really do get really tight with the folks in that group, and a lot of people, come through and they'll do it for a couple months and then leave. But
sure,
I've curated a lot of my friendships and stuff through that. But yeah, I definitely consider the Michigan songwriter community really special. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's great. So talking about songwriting, you said your feelings. So you write about your feelings?
Hell yeah, man. What else am I going to do?
What is someone? Yeah, so every singer-songwriter has a different approach, right? Oftentimes about their feelings. Sometimes it's about topics or something out there.
Observations.
But mostly, is it mostly about your feelings, or are there some different?
I try not to limit myself, but I think a lot of times it's an expression of something that you at least want to express what you're seeing. I think that's what songwriting is. It's kind of taking that human experience and putting it in something that is relatable. And I try to be vulnerable in that way. Certainly, I don't limit myself to that. Like I said, like I have a whole kids album. I've written musicals.
Oh, really?
So I like to I write a lot of songs.
I'm thinking. I'm thinking of the name of the kids album. I can picture the album cover.
Real Humdingers.
Yeah, the Humdingers. That's what it was. I saw that. I go, what is this? Then I go, oh, it's a kids album.
Yeah, I try. Well, and like I said, I was in that group for years where, you had to put a song up. So if the spirit wasn't moving you, then you needed to make something. And I have 3 little girls, and I'm always noodling, always making up something. And I was just realizing that, like, these girls are humming some little ditty that I was joking around with about washing your hands or brushing your teeth, or, don't say yuck when someone else says yum kind of stuff. And, kids are really brutal as far as their feedback's concerned. If it's not moving, they're just like, well, fuck off. This isn't doing anything for me. And when I was recording with Kaufman at Local Legend, who you guys have talked to, good job in that interview, by the way.
Josh
Kaufman, yeah. We were just laughing. I was playing him a couple of the songs I have for my kids, and we were just like, dude, we should just make an album of these. And I was like, I have like dozens of these things. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm always writing about my feelings, but I try to make things that make people feel things. I think that's our job as songwriters is to emote in some way that at least hopefully relatable.
Yeah.
But that makes other people feel things more than anything.
Yeah. If you're not moving them or bringing something to light, then it's not as real for them.
And if it doesn't move you while you're making it, then it's probably not worth that much. So I try to make things that make me feel something, even if it's giddy, happy, or or silly or anything else. But yeah, it's not always that. I think when people say, like, do you write about your feelings? They're not all hard feelings. You can write about happy stuff too. You can write about, it's just, we're all just trying to get through the day, so whatever moves you, hopefully some of it's good,
Right. Yeah. I mentioned Sonic Coast a little bit ago. So if you know what Sonic Coast is?
I do. I'm really grateful to them. The Michigan Man song was
I think there was a couple other Kyle Joe songs, but I DJ 8 to midnight Monday through Friday on there. But I have a little spot in there at 9 o'clock called Ryan's Stash, and I have a slew of 40 to 50 of Michigan tracks that I like that we don't necessarily play the bands or artists on the Sonic Coast. Some we do, like there's a crossover. We play Kyle Joe, but yeah, one of the song I picked for you, I knew I wanted to get one of the Chain of Lakes songs, so half a dozen strings I play there. And so now when I introduce that in the next couple of weeks or whenever I played, I'll reminisce about our conversation tonight and tell everybody to go check out the episode and all that good stuff.
Thanks for that. It seems like you put a lot of energy into elevating Michigan music, man. Thank you.
Yes. I couldn't do it myself, but thanks.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership.
We have made that push, and we both have our outlets that we kind of.
The Michigan Music Podcast, I mean, like, everyone that does what I do is grateful to people that do what you guys do. It's very.
And there's a lot of people doing a lot of things for the community, I think. So it's like you say, Sonic Coast, you got Lori Stratton, John Segovics, there's just a lot of forces that are pushing in the right direction. So,
John Bomarito does a great job. Well, thank you guys. That's a lot of work. It's not lost on us that how much goes into it. So,
I liked it when in the Valley Below, they were over here and they said, we love supporting our supporters. And I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I love that.
Yeah, man, it was an easy yes when I heard from you. Thank you.
Yeah. Chris made it easy. Gave us. I think I actually had Chris gave me your cell phone number.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll start out emailing him though.
DuPont. I now have another thing that I owe that guy. Piling up, man. He's been good to me.
Well, he just produced your latest record. Right?
Long overdue, that partnership. He's we've both been hearing from our individual supporters about how we have a doppelganger and a personality likeness in Ypsilanti and Grand Rapids, and it's just like I was like getting sick of hearing. Who is this guy?
Check him out.
And then he worked with Spencer LaJoy, who was one of my dear friends, and I just absolutely was in love with how he treated those songs. So we finally got in touch. I just called him one day. I was like, dude, we got to talk, man. And by the end of the conversation, he's like, we're making an album. And I'm like, I've been going through some shit, man. I don't know if I have it in me right now. No one needs to hear these songs. And he was like, dude, we're doing it. He booked a day at his house, a weekend at his house. And I ended up taking a pile of songs there, and he took it from there. And
Kelly was there and joined in on some stuff.
Oh, man.
Just happened to be walking through the house. Hey, come here, sing this.
The Kylie collaboration was 100% Chris's fault.
Yeah, like, I think he mentioned that.
I recorded that whole album, and it was just me, my guitar, and obviously we had decided on some productions and stuff. And then when he sent me the first mix of Take It Easy, he's like, he was like nervous to show me. He's like, I did something big that I'm not sure if you're good, but I'm kind of hearing this as a duet. And of course it was Kylie singing. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding? I was like sobbing. I was like, are you Chris? So that was all Chris. And yeah, Kylie was just my coffee buddy during the recording process. Yeah. But that was
that's cool how that kind of happened. Like, it's not like it was planned. You guys didn't figure that out, and he just throws out. That's the greatest thing, is when you throw out something. Hey, let's just see if he likes it.
Yep.
If he doesn't, hey,
it's a testament to his artistry, really. And I'm a big believer in getting the right people to do what they do really well. I want someone working on the production side that cares as much about production as I do about making the songs. It's like if you hire somebody to come and, build your deck, you're not going to tell them where to put the nails and everything else. It's like they're experts in deck building. Tell them maybe where you want the deck, but let them build the deck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just tell them what you need and want to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. You work all that out, and I'm like that with the musicians I play with too. I would rather get the right guy to play his instrument or her instrument, their instrument on the music, than try to get somebody who is executing some vision that I have that I don't play the banjo. If I did, I wouldn't need a banjo player. So like, if you're going to get someone to come in, I don't even have banjo on my album. No, I don't know why that was my default impulse.
True. Because you knew you couldn't play the banjo.
I'd rather get the right person to bring their own artistry to it. And my music has been elevated so much more by having that attitude. And the last 2 Chain of Lakes albums I made with Kaufman were a lot like that, where I was like, I sent him 25, 30 songs and he distilled it down to 11 and made it a cohesive record, because he makes records. I make songs, And that's not to say that there aren't songwriters that have visions for their entire albums, and maybe I will someday. But how it's been working for me is to just trust the right people to work with, and Chris just absolutely knocked it out of the park. But we had a very, very trusting relationship. I sent him probably like 15 songs, and he distilled it down to, we were just going to do 5. And then like the 2 weeks before I went to his house to make that album, I wrote like 15 more.
Wow.
And I showed up and like didn't want to do any of the ones that I had sent him, which is kind of a dick move, because he's such a preparer. Like he spent a lot of time, and like he had those 5 in production notes and everything else. And I showed up being like, can I show you something? And he was so sweet and caring and loving about, dude, let's make the ones that are moving you right now. And we made a completely different album. It was, and more songs. We ended up doing 7, and very different album than I thought I was going to make while I was driving there. And he just absolutely elevated it to a place that it just wouldn't be without him. I mean, he's a monster talent. His brain, his vision, to say nothing of the fact that he's one of the best guitar players around, but everything he does is in such beautiful service to the songs. He's really in a league of his own. And I hesitate to say that on a podcast, because I want access to Chris DuPont to make all my records. But I've had the same experience with Kaufman too. Josh Kaufman in Grand Rapids, a local legend, is same way. And they're very different in their approaches, but that's what makes them special, is that they don't have the sonic doppelgangers. They do their own thing, and that's who I want to be working with. Yeah. I've been very, very lucky about that.
Well, I don't think you have to worry too much about consuming him all the time, right? Because you're not making a record every couple of months. But
I don't know. I want to. When it's that easy to work with.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that you had 15 songs at one point, and then 15 and a few weeks later, I guess you could probably pump them out. So.
Yeah, I write a lot. That's for sure.
What's your writing process? Like, how does that? Do you just kind of lock in and lock yourself in a room and just kind of go at it and think through it, or it just progressively occurs as you find things that speak to you?
That's a good question. then that's always the first question when you're at like a workshop or something is, what's your process? Do you do music first or do you do lyrics first? And my answer is yes. I'm always noodling. I think it's just what I do. And that's my advice to people, aspiring songwriters, particularly that don't have that confidence to really identify as writers, is like, no one's going to call you a songwriter until you do. So live it. And when you live it, and when you walk through your day as a songwriter, the data's there. We're all going through the same world that the Leonard Cohens and Bob Dylans of the world and the Conor Obersts of the world go through. They're just paying attention differently. So I just try to pay attention, and it's LaJoy and I always laugh about it, like when we're in a fight with like our partners or something, and I'll be like, ooh, and they're like, you're fucking writing a song, aren't you? And it's like, maybe, yeah, it's just always, yeah, it's an identity. If you want to do it, and live it, So I tried to be open to those little nuggets all the time, and I'll get some. I have a app in my notes of my phone. It's just called like titles, which is how like the Nashville world. If you go down in the Nashville machine, if you will, those guys that are just shitting out. I write with these guys down there that have publishing deals where they have to turn in 15 songs a month for their contract. And like, they just have to make songs all the time. And they write by titles. So like, they'll write down like, free as I am, whatever. And like, it's a very efficient way to communicate with a co-writer. Like, this song's going to be called this. And like, I know what you mean. And like, it's a good way to get on. So I just called my notes file titles because of that. I don't write songs like they do at all. I don't try to make songs that don't need to exist so much, but I'll just write down a little idea, and if it's a good nugget, then I have probably like hundreds now that I can just, when I'm feeling like I want to sit down and make something, I have a bunch of ideas that I've been just collecting throughout the day, and I'll write when I'm driving. I'll write sitting at my kids' plays, and I always just,
you never know when it's gonna just pop in your head.
Just and having the discipline to really just capture it, so that when the spirit does move, or I do have some time to sit down and work on it, I have options.
You're just sketching something out at that point. You can fill it in later.
You said it. Yep, exactly. Just try to just capture that nugget, immortalize it, so that it's there for me when I have some time to flesh it out.
It's tough to hold it on in your brain too long. If you don't write it down, it's
easy for it to just get erased or kind of like piled onto.
Yeah.
But if you wrote it down, and the 8 things that would have buried it in my consciousness, it's all there.
Right.
So I have a surplus to work with. I'll never catch up with my notes file. Ever.
I could feel it. Yeah, you always got something there to help out.
Yeah, that's right. I'm trying now to really just kind of listen for songs more than like intellectually make them. You know what I mean? Like, they're there. There's, if you get into like the medicine song world and stuff, there's a belief that like these songs they're always up there. These songs have been singing since first they were sung, kind of thing. And if you just got to make yourself open to them, and they'll come. It's a mindset I try to put myself in, to just hear what's out there and sit in inspiring places and with inspiring people, and glean what I can, rob what I can.
I would have to imagine you like playing live. I mean, I don't think we've met an artist that, I mean, we don't ask that question to everybody, but I haven't heard anyone say that they don't enjoy playing live. Kind of comes along with being an artist, like showing your stuff.
I think you have to be dead to not love playing for like, especially, well,
it's
and
the other half of
that's actually
what you do.
a big thing that switched around in my career in the last 5 years, I'd say, since COVID, because I really didn't like playing live so much before, because I was doing the full band thing and I had a ton of anxiety, and I just kind of was realizing the prep and the booking and making sure that the band was knew all the changes and stuff. And when you're playing with a full band, if you're not touring all the time, like
communicate,
and you make a mistake, and it's like, did they know I made that mistake, or if me singing the wrong words in the first chorus instead of the second one is gonna fuck them up?
Yeah.
A lot of my anxiety kind of was the logistics of getting everything together and the presentation of the band and everything else. And I was also realizing that I wasn't caring for my songs very well. You know, you can be a great painter, but if you're painting on a canvas that's not tight, and then it's not going to reflect your talent. And if you're writing, you know, these heart songs and quiet folk songs, and you're trying to play them at, you know, Booger's Bar and Grill during the Red Wings game, and then you're going to go home and beat yourself up that nobody liked your songs. It's like, well, where did you put your song? Was that the palette for it? Was that the audience for it? And so I after coming out of COVID, I started, it sounds so arrogant, but I started saying, like, I'm not going to play unless my name is on the ticket. And when there's tickets and it has your name on it, people are sitting down and listening to you.
Yeah.
And the point of the gathering was to hear your songs. And my career took off just because, like, I was getting people were listening to my song. I have a very soft, kind of hushed voice. I finger pick guitars, and, like, I'm not gonna play over the Red Wings. That's not where not where my songs
you
work.
learn that it's not the place you want.
Yeah, my songs work when people are sitting down and giving me attention to, like, hear the story. You know, that third verse twist doesn't work if they weren't paying attention to the first two verses. You know, and that's, I think, where my talent is some of, like, the twists and the lyrical nuances and stuff like that. And if people aren't listening to what you're setting up, you know, punchline doesn't work if you don't hear the setup either.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing. So, you know, stand-up comedians talk about that all the time. They all do these college gigs where they're, you know, in the cafeteria at a college, and it's like, no one wants to hear the second half of a joke. You know what I mean? So I just started saying that I'll play when my name is on the ticket in listening rooms. And not only did, like, the reception to my music become much more encouraging, but I started really enjoying playing live more.
So yeah, you kind of,
you know, and that's another thing that I try to tell aspiring songwriters too, is, like, put your songs where they work, and it's your job to know where they work. And there can be some experimentation there, but learn, you know, the world's telling you something, like, listen.
Would you say that you've seen more recently more places to have that listening room experience than there was maybe 10 years ago?
I'm aware of them more, and I think that they're aware of me more. You know, I've been very, very lucky. I had a great relationship with Quinn at who was doing the listening room, and it's now Midtown.
Okay, yep.
And
yeah. That's how
I got, if you play a great show at Midtown, like the Alluvion up in Traverse City and 20 Front Street and the Trinity House.
I was gonna literally name all these off. Like, have you played
the Robin in Grand Rapids? You know,
Robin? What's
that one?
The Robin is?
It's like I think it's a 90-seat theater in Old Town.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a great room.
Interesting.
Yeah, but those places hear about you when you play a good show at the other ones. You know what I mean?
Right.
And obviously, you had mentioned the Michigan songwriter community. It's like we throw each other gigs all the time.
Yeah.
You know, Mike Ward comes over and opens for me at the listening room, and then I get to go and open for him at Trinity House.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So I'm aware of those spaces more, those listening rooms. And have you guys heard of the Folk Alliance, like Farm, or the Folk Alliance International? It's a conference.
Nicholas James Thomas, he might have mentioned it to us.
He's on the board.
Okay.
I
think it got.
So he probably did.
I don't think we actually talked about it or more.
Right.
There are these music conferences where, like, venue owners, show curators, obviously musicians, songwriters, not specifically just songwriters, but folk acts, traditional music.
Yeah.
They come together and they do it at, like, these hotels. It's actually going on this weekend, the Folk Alliance International in Montreal.
Okay.
But there's regional meetings. We call ours Farm Folk Alliance Region Midwest, excuse me.
Okay.
down in Lisle, and you get to go and meet all these venue curators, and obviously you get to see all your friends that were playing shows. You never get to go to their shows because we all work on the same nights, right? So, the community expands there, and when I tour now and go to all throughout the Midwest, that's pretty much how I've met all of those venue owners and show curators and stuff like that.
Did you get to check out the Starlight Room in Muskegon when it was for the time it was active?
About that, I guess I didn't even realize that it closed.
Yeah, it was only open for a year.
I know, it was such a.
I got to see one show there.
I didn't go there, but I wanted to go there. So
yeah, I heard really good things.
Yeah, it was like state of the art and also.
Uptown was doing live stuff there for a while.
Yep. Yeah, they were streaming all the shows. I think
they just opened 7 Steps Up back up.
Did they?
That? Yeah, it's called the Temple Lounge now. Yeah, he's making a go at it again. I'm playing there with Spencer LaJoy in April.
Okay.
I played there, one of their first shows they did back with Matt Gabriel and Steve Rivers. I played like this last June, and that's a great room, man. Same thing, and they ask you, do you want it to be a listening room seated, or do you want it to be like a club environment? And I obviously just said I wanted it to be a listening room, sell tickets, have sit down, get comfortable. Yeah. But those rooms are popping up, and it's important that we support them. People, it's very easy to sit at home and see whoever that you would go see on TV or on your phone. Or I don't like taking in music like that at all. But I think that it's really important to guys like to support guys like you and these venues that are putting in all that work to get brick and mortar places for us to gather. We're supposed to be doing that as human beings. We're probably supposed to be banging drums around bonfires and stuff like that, but it's like a primitive part of our experience. Like, we're supposed to be sharing and singing together.
It was 7 Steps Up. That was
it used to be called 7 Steps Up.
Temple Lounge.
Now it's called the Temple Lounge.
Had you been there before?
No, but I had heard of the 7 Steps Up chat before.
You should get Chris on here. He has some great stories, and he just ended up buying that building, and he's trying to get that thing launched, and that Spring Lake community could use it, and especially now that the Starlight Room's not there.
Right, yeah.
Something on the shore.
We need to talk to Spencer LaJoy.
That
name comes up so often, and I've heard some music, and I don't think I've actually seen him live, but I've heard some songs, and I'm like, wait,
Spencer is.
We need to talk to Spencer.
Probably my favorite songwriter that's alive, and also one of my best friends. But I have a song on my new album called "All My Friends Are Talented." And it speaks to that. Spencer was one of my favorite writers before they were my best friend.
Yeah.
I make everybody that makes me feel things be my friends.
Yeah. I love it. Shit.
Yeah, I was actually planning to shoot Spencer a message because
I'll pay it forward. Chris gave you my number. I'll give you Spencer.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Also, it'll be a very, very good conversation for you. I think they're one of the more important writers in the world.
That's one of the names that I feel like comes up out of some names come up a lot because we've talked to them and we reference them throughout different shows. But I feel like so many artists will mention Spencer.
Yeah.
Spencer is white hot right now. You will be hearing plenty more from them.
And just released an EP as well.
Same day as
yours, yeah.
We had a show.
Cool.
We did a weird Valentine's Day show. We're both going through divorces.
Yeah,
and then we had a show with Chris and Kylie who just got engaged. So we're like, this is the fucking weirdest show we could possibly have on Valentine's Day. So we just owned it and called it Weird Valentine's Day.
I saw that. I thought
sang our heartbreak songs in the back of an old church. It was just the weirdest show ever, and it was so great.
Cool.
That's cool.
Heck yeah.
That was at the Lowell Soundcheck, which is another West Michigan great listening room. It's been really good to me.
You play at 20 Street?
I have. I just toured with you guys heard of David Wilcox?
I've not.
He's one of the great American troubadours, and in my humble opinion, he's been doing it for a really, really long time. I mean, he's been written up in Rolling Stone and toured with everybody that you've ever heard of. But he took me on tour this last November, and funny that we just mentioned all those venues, but we did Midtown, Grand Rapids, we did Louvion, 20 Front Street, and Trinity House.
Okay. Nice.
So I just played there for the second time, was with him. And I played there with LaJoy and Hershock, actually.
Okay.
Sammy Hershock this last year. That's a great, great room. I love the old pews.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Yeah.
I love those venues that, like, you feel ridiculous for singing into a microphone. you know, because everyone can hear you anyway.
Yeah.
The first time I played at Midtown, it was for their soft opening. Nicholas James Thomasma was hosting an open mic, just to kind of like kick. It was actually to kick off the farm conference when it was in Grand Rapids. Cool. And I walked in toward the end of the open mic. He had given me a pass so I could come, and he called me on stage. He's like, "We have one more performer, Chain of Lakes," and I was like, "What?" He handed me his guitar, and I got up there and I went to like hit the my bypass pedal to tune the guitar, and it felt like my guitar was louder after I took it off. Everyone could hear everything, and I was like, I got so nervous. But I love those rooms, especially the ones like Midtown and 20 Front Street that just do a beautiful job of dialing that sound in. But you can literally step away from your microphone, hit your bypass pedal, and keep playing, and it's even more intimate step toward the audience. And those rooms are so special, man. Have you guys been up to Traverse City yet and seen the Alluvion?
I have not. I want to go.
It's a treasure of a venue. Yeah, Michigan is super special. I mean, you guys can take credit for that. I mean, elevating all of us and this music scene. But like, I toured in Texas last year with my friends. Who there's a festival down there called the Curvo Folk Festival, and they have a songwriting contest, and the winners get to go on like a tour around Central Texas. And just being with two writers from New York, Raf R.O. Shapiro is his stage name. He's from out in California, and Javier is down in Texas, and they just seeing that scene in the Central Texas area, which is where songwriting is like coveted down there. I mean, that's Towns Van Zandt, that's, you know, Guy Clark, Willie Nelson, like they love songwriting down there. And I was like, I think we have it better in Michigan. And then they all came up and we did a tour here with actually Sav Bice, who's won Curvo too.
Yeah.
And they were all blown away by the Michigan scene. Like, we're doing something special here. And I think it's that whole collaboration over competition thing that we have going on. Rising Water raises all boats.
Yeah.
Man. And I think that the Michigan community does a really, really good job of just making sure that we're all doing okay, you know, and elevating each other. And it's a really, really, really special scene. I'm very grateful to be a part.
Do you think they have like podcasts, like, let's see, Texas trombone podcast where they talk about, it's like every station needs a music. I mean, we got you.
Yeah.
There's songwriter festivals a lot of other places that I think, you know, Michigan has like traditional music festivals like Wheatland, and I love Nor'easter. Another group, Eric and Jen Cass, that curate the Nor'easter Songwriter Festival. Or it's not a songwriter festival, it's just a music festival, but they hire all Michigan artists every year. It's really, really great. We, I think, are just very proud of being from Michigan. I don't know if it's just the whole peninsula thing. It's a terrible place to tour from because we can go south.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? If you live in Indianapolis, you have 360 degrees of shows with it, or Nashville. I think that's why it's the Mecca, is that you can get to
very central
50 markets in 2 hours.
Right.
Michigan, you can play in Michigan, and then you can get to like Chicago, Columbus, Cleveland.
Yeah.
And you're driving around the Great Lakes. It's just not super efficient for touring. So I think that there's a pride of being from here. Plus, we're hardened Northerners.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
We're proud to be from here. So I think that there's a special camaraderie. I don't know what it is, but it was very obvious to me leaving the Michigan scene to tour and play in different places about how good we have it here.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully we can keep that going and keep pushing forward. So
well, good job, guys. I think you get more credit than I do.
I don't know about that, but it is, once again, community over, collaboration over collaboration over competition, is, we hear it all the time and we see it. It's not just said, it's lived, the examples there.
I just saw that Annie Capps, Annie Capps?
Yeah.
Annie and Rod, and Rod, she's getting like a Spirit Award at the Folk Alliance International for she's done for the just the Midwestern songwriter community, and people like Annie and Nick Thomasma.
Yeah.
Nicholas James, that dude works so hard. He
Yes.
does all the things, not the fun things. It's so much more than just playing guitar and singing and even writing songs and recording them. Like, he puts so much into making the whole space like welcoming and loving for all of us. And that dude doesn't get a fraction of the credit he deserves. And people just don't know how much he puts into it. But I mean, there's a list of folks like that in our community. And when I say our community, I think that's another thing that's special about Michigan too. When we were in Texas, you know, we'd play Dripping Springs, and then we'd drive 40 minutes and play Austin, and then drive and play New Braunfels and play Kerrville. And in Michigan, it's a little bit harder to do that because the people from Lansing come to my shows. Like, there's not 15 markets in Michigan. There's like 3. Like, you get to go up to Traverse City, and like that might be an isolated show, but like I can't play. I think some people can, you know, Rachel Davis and, you know, May Erlewine and some of the people that are selling tons of tickets can probably pull that off. But like my fans, if you will, in Lansing come to my Grand Rapids shows. So I can't play a bunch in Grand Rapids. You have to travel here because it's just a smaller community, and people travel and support, you know?
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned April, you're playing at Temple Lounge with Spencer. It was with Spencer, right?
With Spencer and my friend Jeremy Backnitz from Colorado Springs, who I just toured with out east earlier this year.
Is that a one-off? Do you have a tour kind of scheduled, or is that a one-off tour?
We're playing like Chicago, Wisconsin, and then we have like 4 days to get home, and then we're doing the Temple.
Okay. So yeah, you guys are hopping around a little bit.
Just a little Midwest jaunt before they move out to
any other
May.
Michigan?
Excuse me, in May they're moving out to California.
Oh, we're losing another Michigan artist over to another state. Well, usually they're going to Nashville, so I get
Take the Michigan.
No. Like, we still consider the Word and Treaty Michigan band, even though they're Nashville. Patty Pershale, we still consider a Michigan gal.
Patty's ours. Sav's ours.
Yeah.
And if you ask them, I think that's another special thing about Michigan. They will say that they're a Michigan artist. Carrie Lynch was, you know, the kind of like the darling of Michigan country scene. She moved to Nashville, but she comes back and tours every single summer, and like, she is a Michigan artist. Through and through.
Do you have any other Michigan shows besides the Temple Lounge, or is that what you got right now?
That's a good question. I am playing the Arc in April with Kylie.
All right.
Kylie Phillips. Ooh. And then we're trying to set something up back here too that same weekend. And then my buddy R.O. Shapiro's coming in May. We'll be playing here. He's going to be up north a bit, and we're trying to get him a Grand Rapids show on his way back through. Yeah, I'm playing the Jackson Theater, or the Michigan Theater in Jackson, for a songwriter round with Annie Caps in March, I think. My phone died like right after I literally was minutes away from not getting here because my phone was on like 0 while I was pulling in, and but otherwise I could check.
No, yeah, it's no.
I can send it. Yeah, I'm playing, and then just the summer festivals. I'll be at Nor'easter again, and see if I can swing Wheatland.
I love it. Is Cowpie still out there, or did they change their name?
Cowpie changed their name now. It's right, and the one in Alto. Shagbark. Yeah. I went there for the first time this year. Brought the girls out there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember that one being cool, but I remember that's right, they did change.
I think that might have been a little bit of a COVID casualty.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, but Michigan festivals, another thing I think that really sets us apart is it's obviously a great environment, like as far as like temperature, even in the summer, just for festivals. But our festivals are awesome. Between Bliss Fest and Wheatland and Nor'easter, I mean, Buttermilk, like there's all
so many,
so good.
Well, a year or two ago, we made a little joke. We were trying to find the craziest Michigan festival names, and there's so many with the most oddball names, like I can't even.
Yeah, I can't think either. Yeah,
like what is this?
But there's just so many, and the
list kept going on.
Right.
We have so many festivals in Michigan. This is so beautiful.
They're so great. And a lot of them are really starting to cater toward the quieter songwriter stuff, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping that we get like a tried and true, like Dripping Springs-esque, like straight songwriter festival.
So it's been great, Kyle. Enjoyed talking with you, man.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you guys had me. This is, again, we all owe you a debt of gratitude for doing this stuff. This is pretty cool.
We do this because everybody needs to hear about the artists that are out there and everything else that's going on. You know, talking with Josh, from Local Legend, anybody helping with the scene.
I think that's what's special about your guys' podcast is that you have studio owners, you have festival curators, you have the Nicholas James Thomas is coming here talking about what they're doing beyond just songwriting and stuff. Yeah. It's important for people to know that. It makes it easier to support people when you know how hard they work, and you guys do a good job of kind of shining a light on that.
I hear somebody, we have an interview. Whether I am into that genre of music or whatever it is, I always come away because I know that person now. I've heard the story. I know more about that person. I have a connection. I am more likely to listen to their music, even if I wouldn't on a normal day-to-day basis. It's all about connecting. If you don't hear people's stories, it's building that connection, I think. And it's important. So we want to share people's stories about what you're doing.
Well, you're doing a good job. I think that's what's so great about the listening room stuff, too, is that you get to know the people. When you can hear them tuning in between songs and like it's weird not to set up your song. You know what I mean? It's not like a big band and people are talking and drinking and everything else. It's like people are sitting there and they want to know the story. They want to hear the jokes or the send-ins and stuff. That I learned a lot from David Wilcox in that regard as far as just like making the room ready for your song. If you could take 15 seconds and set it up so that people get it and they know and the room is ripe and ready for what's coming, like your song is going to be that much better. It's going to be that much more impactful. I think the listening room and podcasts and stuff like that and really meeting artists. I adore listening to my favorite artists on podcasts. Hearing them just like, how do they talk when they're not singing? You know what I mean? Some people are so cerebral with their presentation of their songs, but just hearing them talk and swear and everything else is like great. So thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah, bud. Definitely.
Appreciate it.
Right. If you like this episode, check out all of our episodes on your favorite streaming platform.
Or even our website, themittenmusic.com.
Or if you want short clips of our episodes, check out our socials.
We got Facebook.
We have Instagram.
We got TikTok.
And YouTube.
We're all over the social media game.
Make sure to check out some live Michigan music or listening on your favorite streaming platform.